What's up, movie lovers? I'm Mike, and this is Gotta Love Them Movies. You guys, welcome back to Gotta Love Them Movies, your daily dose of movie news. I'm your host, Mr. Mike Brown. I'm here all the time, and you guys, we have some wonderful things to talk about today. Today is a beautiful, Thursday afternoon. I was supposed to, fun insight into the world of Mike Brown. I was going to be interviewed on a podcast later today that was going to debut next week. That has been postponed to tomorrow. But fun thing about tomorrow, there's not going to be a show tomorrow. We're not going to do a show tomorrow. Tomorrow is even bigger exciting news. I get my second dose of the Moderna vaccination tomorrow. I am very excited. I'm not excited for the side effects, of which I've heard can be quite not pleasant. On my first vaccination, I was just wiped out. I was so tired. It just took everything out of me. I wasn't sick per se, but of course, your arm gets achy. I mean, everybody's arm gets achy, whatever. But I didn't feel sick. I was just so tired. I was just wiped out for 3 or 4 days. So I'm expecting that to be the same thing for tomorrow's second dose vaccination. But I've heard some rough things about your second dose of vaccination. So we'll just see how it goes. I'm excited to get it done. And speaking of excited for all things, ladies and gentlemen, guest on the show today, a very good friend of mine. We've known each other for, is it 2 years now? Year and a half. We're rolling up on a year and a half, something like that. Improviser all the way from the West Coast. Maybe not originator of Tiny Fest. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Michael Astrauskas.
Hello, everybody.
Tiny Fest. Oh, man. That was, for those of you who don't understand what Tiny Fest is, Michael, you could probably give a better explanation. What's Tiny Fest?
So Tiny Fest is a tiny improv festival. It was invented by John Windmuller, also an improviser, of course. And it's occurred I think once he created it, at every Camp Improv Utopia at least once, either as an official event or not. But it's a full improv festival in about 90 minutes where every set or workshop is about 2 minutes long. So if you have participants, you get on stage, you tell them stand up, we're going right now. If you have a set, it's get a suggestion and get started. And it's just so much fun because it's an opportunity for everybody to just do something really impulsive or wild or atypical. But why not? If it's good.
I remember when I got to do Tiny Fest, it was one of those Boy Scout camp kind of sketch or skits, whatever. The whole idea is that you bring up an audience member and you get them to repeat the words that you say. Of course, I have this pre-memorized thing in my mind. So if I were to say one hen, Michael, you would say one hen, two ducks. One hen, two ducks, three squawking geese.
One hen, two ducks, three squawking geese.
One hen, two ducks, three squawking geese, 4 Limerick oysters.
One hen, two ducks, three squawking geese, 4 Limerick oysters.
One hen, two ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4 Limerick oysters, and 5 corpulent porpoises.
One hen, two ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4 corpulent oysters, and 5...
Oh, you lost it. It goes 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4... Limerick oysters, 5 corpulent porpoises, 6 pair of dollarberry tweezers, 7,000 Macedonians in full battle array, 8 brass monkeys from the ancient sacred secret crypts of Egypt, 9 apathetic, sympathetic, diabetic old men on roller skates with a marked propensity towards procrastination and sloth, and 10 lyrical, spherical, diabolical demons of the deep who quiver with the quay and quay with the quiver all at the same time, and 11 luminescent, transcendent pendants of love that glitter and glimmer with the fire of 1,000 moons rising above the ancient Orient at dawn. Boom!
Ooh. How long did that take you?
Uh-huh.
No, how long did that take you to memorize?
Yes. That is my official answer. No, I don't know, maybe a week, something like that. Anyway, I don't know. Michael,
Well
thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sitting around and chit-chatting some movies and movie news with us. I'm excited to see what your thoughts are on some of these topics that we've got coming up. And I think we got some pretty cool topics coming up. But before we can discuss movies and movie news, please, if you haven't done so already, head over to YouTube. Oh, let's refresh the page, shall we? Come on. This is, again, you guys, joys of doing a live show. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Just like a Mounds bar or an Almond Joy bar. Sometimes it's nuts. Sometimes it's not. All right, if you haven't done so already, head over to youtube.com and type in Gotta Love Them Movies. In the top right-hand corner of the screen, you're going to see a little red button that says subscribe. Go ahead and click on that button. What clicking on that button does is it helps us to widen our subscriber base. And with the more subscribers we get, the more watched content the channel gets, enabling us to make this show my full-time job. So I very much appreciate your help and support in that regard. And as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers, the live portion of the show will move from Facebook to YouTube. So just something to keep on the radar there. And if, as always, guys, if you have any questions about movies, movie news, fan theories, leaked images, anything at all, send me an email at gottalovethemmovies@gmail.com. And as long as it's a family-friendly comment or question, we will make it a main topic here on the show. And yeah, so with all that done and out of the way, let's go ahead and take a little bit of movie news. What? All right, you guys, we got some pretty interesting things to talk about in the world of movies and movie news, and our first topic is this. Back in 2019 San Diego Comic-Con, was it Comic-Con or was it D23? Oh, man, I want to say it was Comic-Con. I believe... Was it Comic-Con?
I think it was Comic-Con.
Kevin Feige came out on stage in Hall H, and they made this big, huge announcement for all the different projects and properties that they were dropping. We got all these announcements about upcoming future television shows on Disney Plus. Now we're halfway through WandaVision right now. We know Falcon and Winter Soldier is coming out in March. The Loki show is coming out. We've already seen a trailer for that, which looks very interesting. We've seen... casting announcements for both Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, What If, we've seen a tiny little preview for. There's many, many, many more things. Of course, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Black Panther 2, my goodness, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. We know that Fantastic Four and the X-Men at some point are coming. There's so much happening. Well, at the very end of his announcement, he said, you guys, look, we don't have time to talk about Fantastic Four. We don't have time to talk about mutants. We don't have time to talk about Captain Marvel 2. But he did, in fact, have time to make one last announcement. He brought out Mahershala Ali on stage wearing a baseball cap that said the word Blade. Blade. And it was so exciting. It was such a big moment. Everyone roared and cheered, and the ramifications of bringing Blade into the MCU are kind of astounding. Well, ever since that announcement, it was big. It was bombastic. It was really cool. There was a lot of pomp and circumstance. But we haven't really heard a lot of traction as to what they're doing with this project, with this property. Well, the other day, I think it was 5-6 days ago, we finally got our first bit of news. What is happening with Blade? And that is this: they've actually they hired a writer to write the film. There was a little discussion: is Blade going to be a movie, or is it going to be a television series on Disney Plus? Not really sure. Well, now we have our answer. It will be a film. It will be a feature film. And one of the writers from Watchmen is she's going to be penning the script. This particular article is breaking to us from the Hollywood Reporter. And Stacy, oh man, I hope that I say her name correctly. Stacy O.C. Kofur. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, she's worked on a lot of really cool stuff in the past. Obviously, she's really known for Watchmen. I say she's done some really cool stuff in the past. Here's Osi Kufur earned an Emmy nomination for outstanding writing in the comedy series for her work on Hulu's Pen 15. So she's got an Emmy nom behind her, right? She's also worked on Hunters. If you haven't seen Amazon Prime's Hunters, starring Al Pacino, my goodness, what a great television show! I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. She's also worked on the HBO show Run. I wasn't a huge fan of Run. It was okay. I stopped watching after like the third episode. It didn't do a lot for me, but a lot of people like it. So she's worked on Run. She's worked on Pen. She has an Emmy nom for Pen 15. She helped to write Hunters, and as well, she acted as a story editor and a writer on the Watchmen HBO series. My goodness, this lady has some talent. Now, we also know from this article that it was very important to Mahershala Ali in the hiring process, not just the casting process, but who we put behind the camera, the directors, the writers, the producers. He's specifically looking for black talent, and good for him. If he's starring in this series, if he's starring in this show, he wants to create more opportunities for voices that aren't the norm. And I think especially with a project like this, it's important. It's important to have that perspective, to have that background. Michael, you're hearing about this. I know you've seen a lot of the MCU, the Marvel movies and stuff like that. Maybe not every single one, but how does it strike you? What's your knee-jerk reaction here, and what do you think the implications are for this moving forward?
So I always feel a little weird as, a white person talking about race, but
Sure.
As you've already hit on, it's great. Like, I love the fact that for Blade, from day one, they said, no, our writer needs to be a black person. And, similarly for other things, I apologize, I forget the whole title, but like the Ten Rings.
Oh, yeah, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Yeah, exactly.
Another opportunity for, I don't want to just say an opportunity for diversity, but, appropriate writing cast,
this
director,
is the story that they want to tell,
whatever.
So let's put the right people in the roles to tell that story.
There you go.
That's basically how I see it, is that, for so long we've had this formula of, even when you had, I'm going to take the blaxploitation films off the table for a second, but, traditionally in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, when you had a film that had, or a story that had like a strong black lead, 9 times out of 10, it was always a white writer behind the camera. A white director, a white writer. So we're like trying to tell black stories from a perspective of someone who hasn't walked that walk. They don't entirely know what they're talking. I love rap and hip hop. And I've educated myself a lot in that genre. That does not make me an aficionado. I don't completely fully understand everything of what some of these people are talking about when they talk about their experiences. The best that I can do is sit back and listen and try to understand what it is that they're trying to say.
Yeah. So that's something I've been thinking about a lot, especially lately. Like you say, you've been reading up on, well, you listen to the rap and hip hop, of course, but you also read about it. What's the story? Like, what inspired the artist? Like, you might actually, at some level, understand, their background, but you understand it like for a moment. Like you read their story, and it's like, oh, I think I get it. They're living it every moment of every day, whatever their experience is. For example, some form of oppression. Like, you might say, I understand what oppression is, but if you're 40, maybe you haven't dealt with oppression for 40 years. You've dealt with it here and there in some form or factor, not necessarily even the same scale.
Oh, yeah, 100%, exactly. And so kind of pulling it back into Blade for a second, I
Yeah.
love this idea. I love this concept, and I think that's. Let's even take it one step further. Let's go back to Watchmen. I don't know if you saw the show Watchmen on HBO, but it was excellent. It was excellent. That's why it won so many awards at the Emmys. That's why it was nominated for even more awards. Even including the Golden Globes. It's so important to have well-told stories told by talented people who know what they're talking about. And bringing that to Blade, we have this vampire hunter who's half vampire, half human. He's referred to as the Daywalker. That in itself has so many implications about the world that we live in. That's what I love about these comic book stories. They're bigger than life, they're larger than life, but they also tell very relevant stories about the world that we're living in. I connect very heavily with Captain America. I never liked him in the comics. But the Chris Evans version from the films, from the MCU movies, I connect very strongly with. And to understand a character from that perspective, from that level, it warms my heart. Like when Black Panther came out, what that movie, it was a celebration of what it is to be in this demographic and to live that experience and to not have it placated down to. It's a wonderful opportunity. And I'm looking forward to that a little bit more with Blade. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Final thoughts, Michael.
I'm looking forward to it too. For the originals, it's been a while, so now's probably a good time for anybody to go and catch them again and take them in.
I agree. Big question for you guys is, what do you think of this new, I call it casting announcement? It's really, she was hired to pen the script for the upcoming Blade film, and I'm totally going to get her name wrong, but I'm going to try one more time. Stacey Osi-Kufur. I sure hope that's how you say your name. Osi-Kufur, Stacey Osi-Kufur. What do you think about this announcement? Does it get you excited, or does it get you interested? Especially with her work on Watchmen, that's really is what's getting me excited about this. But what are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know what those are. All right, guys, moving on to our next bit of movie news today. We've been talking a lot about Spider-Man. A lot about Spider-Man. Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about this, but, Tom Holland has been making even more news recently. He was interviewed the other day being asked about, okay, what do you know about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire being in the movie? And his big response to this was, Marvel isn't telling me anything. We're shooting the movie. We're already 8 weeks into production. And he himself has come clean that he doesn't entirely know what the movie is about, which means if this is true, if his words are to be trusted, which kind of sounds in line with the relationship that we know about Disney and Tom Holland, or rather Marvel and Tom Holland, they're only giving him small sections things to film. Everything is out of sequence, everything is out of order, so he's not really sure who is in the scene with him, what is happening, how is this working. He knows his dialogue, and he even very famously cites the moment from sorry, I'm looking at my phone, something weird's going on with my phone. So he very famously cited the moment in Avengers Endgame at Tony Stark's funeral. When he was there filming that sequence, he was told that it was a wedding. He was told that they were filming a wedding sequence. He sat down to watch the movie, come to find out, oh, this is the funeral of Tony Stark. I thought it was something completely different. So the context of what he believes certain things to be may not indeed actually turn out to be true. But he's also very emphatically stated Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield playing their respective roles from their each Spider-Man franchises will not be appearing in this movie. Okay, Michael. We know that traditionally Tom Holland is not to be trusted when it comes to information like this. He has, we've known that he's been a source of leaking information himself where he hasn't meant to do so. We know that Marvel and Disney very specifically keep things from him so he doesn't leak things. We also know that he's been in this role for 5 years now, 6 years now, and I kind of feel like he's getting wise to the game a little bit. I feel like sometimes he knows how, or he's learning how to create a decoy. There's been so much speculation because we already know the multiverse is happening in this Spider-Man movie. It's being explored. It's being exploded. Big things are happening. What are the chances? What do you think the chances are of having Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire playing their respective versions of Spider-Man in this film? I mean, Tom Holland said it's not happening, but we don't have official confirmation from any studio heads. We don't have any word from Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire themselves. They have stayed tight-lipped about this whole thing. Nobody's saying anything. What say you?
So, just first of all, honestly, I think an actor just getting so excited about something that they can't help but reveal secrets is, in its own way, kind of endearing. But at the same time, of course, the studios and whatnot do want to, not spoil things, build up some hype, sell tickets. Regarding Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire appearing, I don't know enough about this movie to say it'll happen in this movie, but if they're opening a multiverse, I can't imagine that they're not going to appear at all at some point in some future movie. Honestly, if nothing else, it'd be a lot of fun. The multiverse gives a lot of a potential. It can be abused, and now you can do anything with no consequences. Any parallel universe wants to exist, but also it can tie together a lot of things that fans like in an interesting new way. Greater than the sum of its parts. So. Again, I don't know if they'll appear in this movie, but if they do,
here's a question for you. You bring up an interesting observation that led to this question. Let's just say Tobey Maguire doesn't want to do it. I mean, there have been reports that Kirsten Dunst has been in negotiations for this project. There have been I say reports, but I should say rumors. There have been rumors that Andrew Garfield has been in talks to join this type of project. There has been absolutely no news about Tobey Maguire whatsoever. Let's just say Tobey Maguire just doesn't want to do it. Do you think that Disney opening their bifold and pulling out a few large bills, do you think that would be... What do you think his price would be? What do you think his price would be?
Are you actually...
Maybe not a number, but do you think that there's something that he might want in return? And I guess the only reason I'm saying this is the movie Molly's Game really kind of brought forward these ideas of Tobey Maguire as being a gambling addict, someone who has a very rich history with being malevolent. Especially in terms of competition and specifically gambling, and only doing things that he wants to do, and nobody can force him to do anything that he doesn't want to do. And of course, Molly's Game doesn't bring out Tobey Maguire's name specifically, but the character that Michael Cera is playing in the movie has been rumored to be based on Tobey Maguire, because Molly's Game is a real story. based on a true story.
Right.
So knowing kind of the personality of what we know about Tobey Maguire, kind of being a jerk in Hollywood and kind of bullying other people, do you think that he has a price?
If anything, I'm going to say even more so, yes, he does. I do wonder if, maybe it's more than just money, of course. Like, he gets to call some of the shots in the movie, gets a contract for some future project that may or may not be Spider-Man related. I have to admit, as far as the Spider-Man character goes, I'm a Tobey Maguire fan. I know that's somewhat controversial. I'm not really sure that
not necessarily. I mean,
but
Spider-Man 2 is regarded as one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. Certainly one of the best sequels ever made.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm thinking the price would be more than money. Just maybe a pet project, for example. I don't know if he does any writing or maybe knows a writer and wants to pull something in that he's a part of, and
that has
gets it bankrolled.
That concept has precedent as well. Very famously, Sean Connery quit the James Bond franchise right after he did You Only Live Twice, right? He and one of the producers on the film had a major falling out. He quit. He decided not to re-up his contract, and he just walked away from the franchise, which is why they hired George Lazenby to kind of fill his shoes. Or fill his gun barrel, as it were. George Lazenby turned out to be kind of a jerk, and so they fired him after one movie, and then begged and pleaded to get Sean Connery back. And Sean Connery came back for one movie, Diamonds Are Forever, on one condition. You give me any green light, any movie I want, or rather green light 2 movies. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm not going to tell you what they're about. But you, MGM, must give me carte blanche. My projects have already been pre-approved. I want to do this. You give me that and a heaping sum of money, and I'll come back and do one more James Bond movie for you. And they gave it to him. Carte blanche. He got to do whatever he wanted. I don't know what those films were off the top of my head, but I mean, there is precedent for something like that.
Oh my goodness. So that's interesting too, because I thought George Lazenby did an all right job as James Bond, but hearing that behind the scenes he was trouble.
The whole thing kind of came to light on the press tour. So he filmed the movie On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which I take my problems with the editing and the filming of that movie, but all in all, it's an okay movie. Yeah, he as James Bond did a decent job. Which that was his first time acting ever. He'd never acted in anything, no commercials, no television spots, no indie roles, nothing. He was a model. He was an Australian model. But what got him fired is after he filmed the movie, but before the movie came out, he met kind of like these hippie gurus, and he started on this like magical mystery tour of his own. He grew his hair out, and he kind of played the part of a celebrity as opposed to playing the part of an actor. And when the producers saw him doing this stuff and acting and behaving in a manner that didn't properly represent their company or the image that they wanted to put out there, George Lazenby's answer was, "What are you going to do? Fire me? I'm James Bond." And they said, "Yeah." And they did. So that's how that one happened. There's a wonderful documentary. I think it's on Hulu, all about the whole thing. It's fascinating. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, go check it out. Big question for you guys is, what do you think of Tom Holland's words about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming back to reprise their roles as respective Spider-Mans? Tom Holland says it's not going to happen. But then again, he's also made it very clear that he can't be trusted with information, so much so that Disney doesn't trust him with information, and they don't give him information. So, I don't know. Do you think they're going to be in the movie, or do you kind of believe what Tom Holland is saying? What are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know those thoughts. All right, guys, moving on to our next bit of news. It is now, as of a few days ago, was it a week ago? I think it was just like 4 or 5 days ago, Zack Snyder released a about a 10-second clip on YouTube revealing in his upcoming Snyder Cut, Superman will be donning his black suit. He will be Black Suit Superman. He went on to say in this article from MovieWeb, he goes on to say that, you know, when Superman comes back to life, he's not quite Superman yet. So it's not necessarily appropriate for him to wear his red and blue suit, his costume. And so in his weird transition phase, he will just be donning, the black suit. Michael, thoughts?
So my understanding is that, as you've already touched on, the black suit appearance will be very brief, but, you know, I appreciate the symbolism. If, you know, the idea of going through something like that and coming back.
Kind of like a
hard to relate to, perhaps, in a literal sense, but, you know, with a big life change, I suppose. And also, it's great just for the audience. Like, hey, he is here. And maybe nothing appears different now, but if nothing else, you can plant that seed.
It is kind of an interesting visual there. It's kind of an interesting visual to have. But question is for you guys, I really have no opinion on it. I guess cool. Awesome. Good for Zack Snyder. Good for him. But what are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below and tell me what you think of Superman's black costume. His black suit. Anyway, moving on to our next bit of movie news. We know that Guardians of the Galaxy have been reported as being in Thor for the next Thor movie, Thor: Love and Thunder. Well, now after like a month of shooting, something like that, a few weeks of shooting, the main cast of Guardians of the Galaxy have left Australia. They are on their way around the world. I believe Karen Gillian, however you pronounce her last name, she's going back home. Palm Klemtef, she is on her way to Dubai. Is it Dubai? She's going off somewhere to film another part of Mission Impossible 7. So yeah, she's jumping ship, and not jumping ship, but she's leaving the country of Australia so she can go do something else. And yeah, it would appear that this portion, as Thor 4, as Thor: Love and Thunder continues to film down in Australia, this kind of plays into the rest of our fan theories, which is, or at least my fan theory, which is the Guardians of the Galaxy are only going to be in the opening sequence of Thor: Love and Thunder. They're going to have a grand adventure. Of course, this doesn't confirm anything. This confirms nothing. It confirms that some of the actors have left Australia. They're done film. They've wrapped filming on Thor: Love and Thunder. It doesn't mean anything, but it kind of does play into that fan theory that the opening of the movie is going to be this grand, wild battle, not against each other, but probably with each other. Thor is going to be fighting right along the Guardians of the Galaxy, doing some kind of intergalactic space mission where they kill some kind of intergalactic monster or something. I don't know. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Has that been confirmed? No. But it seems likely. I don't know, Michael, have you been following the Thor movies, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies? Now, I know that previously we spoke, you haven't seen Endgame, Avengers Endgame. The last we saw of the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor, Thor boards Star-Lord's ship. At the end of the movie, he boards his ship and they kind of start sailing off into the cosmos. Where to go, where to behold, who knows? But that's the last we saw of them. So there's always been this kind of discussion that, is Thor going to be in the Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Well, now we find out, no, it's reversed. The Guardians will be in Thor 4. Do you think that there's any credibility to this fan theory? Or do you think that there's a possibility that the Guardians will be playing a much larger role in the story of the fourth Thor movie? What are your thoughts?
So one of my favorite things about the Marvel movies is the fact that they mixed together. For example, the first one I saw, and maybe it was the first one, was the first Iron Man. And it was a really fun standalone movie itself, especially because I was on a bus trip after skiing, so it
Yeah.
was just nice to do something. But there's all these standalone movies, and then, for example, the first Adventures, really fun action movie, and it's just all the heroes together. And I mean, like, and I don't just mean that's like a fan dream, because I wouldn't say it was a fan dream for me, but
Yeah.
they made it work. Like, it was really cool to see these together. And having not seen Endgame, I actually, even though they're in the same universe, I have trouble picturing the Guardians of the Galaxy interacting with the other characters. But Thor specifically is pretty fantastic. So, if anything, I hope that the Guardians of the Galaxy have a significant appearance in
Thor: Love and
what
Thunder.
was it, Love
Yeah,
and Thunder?
it's kind of so Thor Ragnarok had this kind of electric neon 80s kind of vibe to it. And Thor: Love and Thunder seems to be taking it a decade previous and have like real hard rock 70s kind of rock and roll kind of vibe going to it. So, I mean, I don't know what the theme of the movie is. We don't even know the tone. I assume that's kind of what the tone is going to be based on like the marketing appearances of the logo. But I don't know. I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy are known to have an amazing soundtrack behind them. So, I mean, we could, and we got a little bit of Led Zeppelin in Thor Ragnarok. So, I mean, why not like dig deeper into that?
It seems natural at this point to go that direction.
I would think so. Anyway, guys, question for you guys is: what do you think the significance of the Guardians of the Galaxy wrapping filming on the set of Thor: Love and Thunder down in Australia is now, as Thor continues to go through its rigorous filming schedule? Do you think that this plays into some fun fan theories? Do you think they're going to have a smaller role, or do you think they're going to have a larger role in the movie? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, we have one last bit of movie news to cover today. And if anyone has, I think it's pretty fair to say that The Mandalorian on Disney Plus is one of the most popular television shows right now. Like we went through the whole thing with Watchmen, and that was one of the most popular shows at the time. A decade ago, The Office was, and arguably in some ways still kind of is, I think it was the most watched content show on the internet right now on streaming services. But I think it's fair to say that one of the most popular television shows right now is The Mandalorian. Well, last night we got final confirmation that Disney and Lucasfilm have decided to part ways with one of the Mandalorian's main stars, Gina Carano. Now, this comes off the heels of a few months worth of Gina Carano being very vocal with some of her opinions on social media, some of which have not been quite so savory, or not necessarily so savory, but they have not been received very well, which would indicate they have not been so savory, right? This particular post that she made, and we're not going to go into the fine nitty-gritty details of it, but needless to say, she compared the plight of the current Republican Party to the plight of 1930s, 1940s Jews in Nazi Germany. A, that's an unfair comparison to make, and B, it's kind of a gross and terrible thing to say. Like I said, this has kind of been building up from Disney and Lucasfilm for a while. So they finally decided to part ways with her, and not just Disney and Lucasfilm, but also Carano's representation, her I can't think of the name. the people that represent her in Hollywood, they have also decided to part ways with her as well. Now, I don't, Michael, I don't want to get caught into the muck and mire of what it was that she said and the merits of this and blah, 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 that. But moving forward in the Star Wars universe, specifically within the Mandalorian, we know that Mandalorian season 3 is coming. I believe they've already been filming. And being that she's played such a pivotal role, do you think that they're going to have to go back, obviously either recast and then refilm, or do you think that they're going to take the story in a different direction? We also know that there were other solo, standalone Disney Plus television series based in the Star Wars universe that she was going to play a pivotal role in those shows as well. Given the case, do you think it's better to recast or just cut her story out altogether? What are your thoughts?
So my gut reaction with no official insight is removing the character, possibly even really like sweeping her under the rug. Basically, maybe in the next episode somebody mentions something and that's that. Again, that's not inspired by anything or not based on any like true insight, but it's just a vibe I get from what a lot of modern programs do. Because, for example, 60s, 70s, 80s, recasting was just what happened. People look completely different. We say it's the same character. Nowadays, it's like even a lighter thing. Sometimes an actress gets pregnant and temporarily leaves, or they have to totally reframe the show to
well, it's
justify
funny you
it.
say that about.
In this case,
excuse me for interrupting for a second, but it's funny you say something like that because I just read a report very recently. You know that classic episode of Seinfeld where Elaine gets trapped in the subway, and then the lights go out, kind of the electricity or the power to the subway goes out, and the lights go dark, and she's having this conversation with her in her mind. She's on her way to a wedding. Two of her friends are getting married, and she's like, "Just open the door!" No, somebody's touching me. Oh, what's that smell? Well, they framed that shot in a particular way because she was pregnant. They couldn't show her belly, so they like jam-packed her in a subway car full of other people and then just filmed her from like the shoulders up. And that's because she was pregnant. And I thought that was such a wonderful, like, I had no idea. I had no clue. Anyway, I'm sorry. I totally cut you off. As you were.
No, that's nicely integrating, and I think actually that's the first episode of Seinfeld I happened to see.
First one ever?
Just by coincidence. I think so. I was pretty young when the show was on the air, so I was probably outside the official target audience. But I was on vacation and didn't have much to do, so I just turned on the TV.
Hang on. You were on vacation and you didn't have much to do?
Well, so I'm from Montreal, and I still have family in the area. And for the first, basically through high school, every summer I'd go back for weeks, if not months at a time. And so often it was just time at one of my grandparents watching TV or playing board games.
Oh man, Seinfeld, such a great show. But yeah, so it's something going on with my audio right now. It's blaring in my ears all of a sudden. But yeah, like getting back to the Star Wars universe, you mentioned just kind of like sweeping her character under the rug a little bit, kind of pretending that, not necessarily pretending that her character didn't happen, but maybe kind of writing her out of the show. We've seen Marvel take a very different approach to this, where, you know, hey, things don't work out with a particular actor, let's replace them. They very famously replaced Edward Norton with Mark. I'm going to say Mark Rylance. How would that be, a Mark Rylance Hulk? Mark. Why can't I think of Mark's last name?
Ruffalo.
Thank you, Mark Ruffalo. Mark Rylance. But you know, they've also replaced a lot of other characters, like Red Skull, the guy who played Red Skull. Hugo Weaving was replaced by one of the actors from The Walking Dead. I can't quite think of his name off the top of my head. You know, of course, Rhodey in War Machine.
Oh yes.
You know, previously other actors there. So I don't know. There is maybe a precedent to recast. I guess it all depends on the story, right? It all kind of depends on where they want this story to go, how much of it they've already filmed, what is important to them, and how they want this to move forward. But I don't know. I can also see the merits of them just like cutting ties with the character and then moving on.
That you mentioned what's important to them. I was just thinking about that. It's like what's like the writer or writers probably have at the very least, like, for example, the next season planned. Maybe not firmly, or well, since they're recording, maybe they do. But at the same time, this is the business concerns.
Yeah.
Like a writer's vision may not be profitable, so there's bound to be some compromise.
Oh man, and how many times have we seen that happen? A specific writer's vision not be profitable. My knee-jerk reaction is the Fant Four-Stick movie, Fantastic Four, Josh Trank, directing with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan. Josh Trank had a very specific vision, but then, of course, the writers came in. Even sticking within the Star Wars universe, Lord and Miller. I tell the story all the time. Lord and Miller from 21-22 Jump Street, the writers and directors of the Lego Movie, brilliant creators, were hired to write and direct the standalone Han Solo movie. Halfway into production, what happens? They get fired. Why? Because in my purview, Kathleen Kennedy does not know how to run a studio. She's a brilliant executive producer. That's why she has so many Oscars on her mantle. But she's not a great studio head. So, I mean, what did you think was going to happen? You hired Lord and Miller to do this movie. They're comedy geniuses. And you kind of, don't like what they're doing. Anyway, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But yeah, I mean, to your point of seeing a writer's vision not turn out profitably, maybe that's why we have movies like Sharknado.
Yeah, several Sharknadoes at this point, right? And the Piranha movies, and those are cases. Those aren't my thing, but I absolutely appreciate that somebody went out there to have fun and seemed to succeed at doing it. Like the writers and cast knew what they're making in those cases. The audience knows what they're watching in those cases, and then they get some sequels.
Oh man, it's funny you say that. Last night, Kim and I, just before we're going to bed, Kim and I were joking around, and let's be honest, I was joking around and Kim was going along with it, right? So I made some offhanded comment because our cats like to sleep with us in bed, and we're they're our source of heat. We are their source of heat. It's just a big heat sharing. So we started doing this whole thing of in a world where heat sources no longer exist, a meteor hit the Earth. Our only source of heat now are cats. It was this whole so stupid. What if that was a sci-fi original movie where a meteor hits the Earth, all sorts of heating, whatever, go out the way. Electricity doesn't exist anymore. Heating by gas doesn't exist anymore. We have nowhere to heat ourselves except through cats. I can definitely see that as being a sci-fi original Sharknado spin-off.
Yeah. A whole economy just based on breeding bigger, warmer cats, or whatever. Distribution of cats.
But you can't snuggle with the tiger because it's going to eat you. What do you do?
Right. So how big is too
Oh,
big?
man. Anyway, guys, we could probably talk about this on loop forever. But the big question is for you guys, what are your big thoughts about Gina Carano being fired from the Star Wars universe, from being fired from The Mandalorian? Where do you think the story is going to go from here? How is that going to impact The Mandalorian? How is that going to impact a lot of the other television shows that Disney and Lucasfilm have planned in their Star Wars universe? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, we've reached the portion of the show where we're going to take your live comments and questions, and one of you has been firing in one comment during the show. So let's just, for formality's sake, let's go ahead and take your live comments now.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
All right, guys, one of you has been firing in live comment and I say that in a singular tone. That would be here. Let me bring up Michael on screen. Oh, Michael, you're tiny.
Oh no,
Tiny Mike. Bald Nate McLee. Bald Nate, I love you, sir. In fact, Bald Nate is going to be a guest on the show coming up next week. So keep an eye out for Bald Nate. And Bald Nate says, by the way, when I say Bald Nate, that is not, yes, it's a qualifier to describe the baldness of his head. However, that's also how he presents himself. So for anyone who is questioning, why are you calling him Bald Nate? That's his name, essentially. So Bald Nate says, I like the Easter egg of the black costume in reference to his return to life in Reign of Superman. True, yeah. So in the comic story, Reign of Superman, now, Bald Nate, you are more of the aficionado than I am, so please correct me as we discuss this, but I do believe in comic story Reign of Superman, that is when Superman comes back to life, and he has donned the black suit, the black Superman suit. He also has the really long mullet hair, which is not becoming on Superman. But yeah, it's that symbology of just coming back to life, of kind of trying to reestablish yourself, finding yourself again. And I think in a lot of ways, Spider-Man kind of did this with his black Spider-Man costume. Of course, that was a whole Venom thing. He was, that was a whole thing. But then he actually donned the black Spider-Man suit as a non-Venom associated costume as well, a little bit more stealth in that regard. But yeah, the symbology of the coming back to life, the resurrection of a god, in this kind of way. Michael, what are your other, how do you feel about like taking a classic comic story and specifically in this regard and just honoring the story a little bit more in that way?
If you put it that way, honoring it, I think that's great, because I'm sure comic book fans, although, based on box office numbers, I'm sure a lot of them were casual superhero fans. But, it's not just throwing a bone to hardcore fans or comic readers, but, it's nice to kind of integrate all these universes. As you mentioned earlier, for example, Marvel has TV shows. The comics have actually reflected some character changes, like Nick Fury. And it's kind of fun. Like, you don't have to be engaged in all the forms of media, but it's cool that, the forces behind them that are actually tying them together even a little. It makes it feel like, you're in a really big fandom.
I love that so much, because like the way that the MCU has constructed their cinematic universe is you can watch all of the Iron Man movies as individual movies, but also as a sequel to the movie that came before. You can watch the Captain America movies as like standalone movies, but also like in sequential, like, it follows Captain America 2 follows on the heels of 1 and blah, 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 and that kind of stuff. But then you have your big event changers like the Avengers. And, it's an all coming together. Even the Avengers in Avengers 2 and 3 and 4, well, maybe not 4, but they can essentially be seen as standalone films as well. And they're all so wonderfully, perfectly interconnected the same way the issues of the comics go. You can read Iron Man 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's its own standalone thing. But then like Civil War comes through, and it's connected with Iron Man issue this, and it's connected with Captain America issue that, and it's connected with Avengers issue this. And it's this whole weird, like, the way that you read comics is kind of the same way that we watch the movies. You can watch them all as one linear story, but if you just want to pick one standalone thing, you can do that as well.
Yeah. Like I said, the first Marvel movie I saw was Iron Man. I think the next one was, in fact, Iron Man 2. And then I started picking up other little ones. And it's like, oh, they're, the early movies, not really tied to each other. But like as time goes on, they're kind of woven, but not too much, as you're saying, such that you have to see everything to understand at least the base level.
And I remember in the theater, I was in Juneau, Alaska, actually, at the Alaska State Improv Festival in Juneau, when Infinity War came out, Avengers Infinity War, and there was a guy in our group, shout out to Bill Merck. He came to the theater with us. He hadn't seen a single Avengers movie at all. He hadn't seen Iron Man. He hadn't seen Captain America. He hadn't seen Thor. He hadn't seen Guardians of the Galaxy. He hadn't seen any of these movies. Avengers Infinity War was the first film he had seen in the MCU. And he walked out of it going,
wow,
that was pretty cool. And it proves the point that it stands on its own. You get more out of the movie if you watch like the 20 movies or 19 movies leading up to that one, but you can watch it as a standalone film and it works.
Yeah, when I realized years ago that the MCU was going to be a big thing, like when the first Avengers movie came out, I wasn't reading the news or whatever, and I thought, like, oh, that was pretty cool. I bet they're wrapping up soon. I didn't know that. And then when I saw, like, they're making more Thor movies and whatnot, honestly, I was worried it was going to be like a movie mill. Like, hey, these are profitable. We're going to keep pumping them out. And
well, that was the precedent for that time.
In a way. But
that was the modus operandi.
Yeah, but they are putting effort into these. Like, it's not just, let's make another Thor movie. It's like, no, let's make a good Thor movie that people like to watch. It has meaning within the universe. It ties to the other things.
It's pretty awesome.
And that's pretty cool.
I love that we started talking about Superman's black suit, and now we're just talking about the MCU. Surprise. I wish we had more comments to read so far in the live chat. Nobody is commenting anything right now, so I guess that's going to wrap it up for now. Hopefully, if anybody wants more comments or questions, send me an email at godallofthemmovies@gmail.com. We can make your comment or question about anything that we're talking about, anything we've previously talked about. If you just have a question about a fan theory, if you heard some kind of rumor or something and you need clarification on it, send me an email at godallofthemmovies@gmail.com. Well, as long as it's family friendly, we'll make it a main topic here on the show. Michael, thank you so much for joining today. Thanks so much for bringing your own brand of insight and wisdom into the show and giving us more of a discussion to sink our teeth deeper into these issues and topics. Tell us a little bit about some future projects you have coming up, and where can people find you online?
So if you want to find me on Instagram, it's right down there below. Although I'm not active right now, but I'm trying to get into it. But people who know me know I'm a photographer, so it's
a little
kind
ironic.
Of a shame, at least from my own that I'm not actually sharing pictures on Instagram. But I'm heavy into improv, so if you're looking for improv to do, every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific, there's the Inner City Longform Improv Jam. You can find it by that name. Just search online. And today only, at 5 p.m. Pacific, if you go to YouTube, Donovan TPS, I'll be in an improvised, how can I forget the name? Improvised Twin Peaks, which will hopefully be fun.
That sounds cool. Improvised Twin Peaks. And of course, like, all of the links are going to be down in the description below, so go ahead and check those out. Michael, thanks so much for being with us on the show today, for hanging out and chit-chatting. All right, guys, if you like this video, please click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is exactly what Black Suit Superman would want you to do. Yeah! Black Suit Superman! Anyway, guys, my name is Mike Brown. I'm here all the time. We live in a weird, crazy world where everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, and sometimes those thoughts and opinions clash. So if you have an opportunity to infuse a little bit of kindness into the world, or to speak kind words to each other, please, I implore you, take those opportunities. And as always, in the words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. I'll see you guys. I will not see you tomorrow because I'm getting my second vaccination shot. I will see you guys on Monday.